Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Angie.
And together we are TwinFinity.
We are Twin Flames, back with another question and answer video, and we're doing fun, different things for you guys. Obviously, we are not by our fireplace like we normally do for our question and answers, so Rob's going to tell us where we are.
We have decided that because it's spring and that it's April of 2020 and we've been inside our house a lot because it's been April of 2020, that we would come out to the mountains and see what was actually open out here. There isn't very much open, but there is a hiking trail that runs right above Silvertip Golf Course. Now, for those of you who know us a little bit better, Silvertip Golf Course is the venue that we got married at.
Yay!
So we've just stepped off the hiking trail. We've got one of the tee-off boxes for hole number 18 right behind us. And in the background, we've got the Three Sisters Mountains back here. We've got Mount Lawrence Grassy more or less directly behind me. And on this side, we have Ha Ling Peak. So yeah, we've made it out to the mountains for the first time in a couple of months.
Oh, it's so nice to be back.
Yes it is. And we've even walked up hills, and it's kind of interesting to feel like what it's like to hike up hills in our hiking boots. I've done some running this early spring, but it's just not the same as when you've got a little bit of a backpack on and some hiking boots.
And it's not the same when you transmute energy and you're freaking exhausted. I know a lot of you are. I actually just posted a little meme this morning on Facebook and Instagram, and a lot of people are totally relating. So yeah, I know a lot of you are in the same boat, feeling completely exhausted. I just had a 9-hour sleep last night, and I woke up this morning and it was like I didn't sleep at all. So a lot of us are working in our sleep. We're doing a lot of transmuting. So if that's you, highly recommend get out in nature if you can. If you can't, watch videos like this. This is why we're doing ours out in nature, to give you some greenery, some mountain energy. Just, there's so much more energy in nature.
We won't have to worry about any golfers going by. The golf course isn't open yet. Around here in the mountains, the golf courses are only open from mid-May until, late September. Other than that, it's too wintry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a very short golfing season.
Yes.
And because of that, it's a very expensive golfing season because they've only got a few months to make money on.
So before we get started on question and answers, I just wanted to say a couple things. We get a lot of private messages from people asking for like individual guidance and asking if we do coaching. And I always feel bad saying no, we don't do coaching, because I mean, come on, it's kind of weird. Who does videos just for the sake of doing videos, but they don't like have a website or do individual coaching or offer any services? And we're kind of weird that way, but we don't, number one, because we both, believe it or not, even with this whole COVID thing, we both still are working.
Yeah.
We both still have jobs.
Yeah,
I'm grateful. I'm not saying I'm not grateful.
I've been working part-time, but at the same time, when I started having a little bit more time at home, like a crazy person, I put together the equivalent of what some people would call a honey-do list.
He put his own. I didn't give it to him.
She didn't contribute to it. I just went ahead and built my own, and I've been busy. The times that I do go back to work, it's kind of nice because I get to lower my pace a little bit. Wow.
So all to say, unfortunately, we do not offer individual coaching. We were asked years ago when we started doing videos, when we were sharing our story videos. If you're not familiar with those, we'll link them above. But when we started doing those, we had a lot of people coming to us asking if we did coaching. So I actually meditated and asked Spirit, like, are we supposed to? Because I didn't feel any nudge. Neither of us did. And I didn't check with you to ask if it was okay to share this. Can I share what Spirit told me?
Go ahead.
No, please, nobody get offended. This was not meant as a derogatory term. But when I meditated, I was told, you are here to work with the masses, not the asses. Now, if you understand Spirit, they always speak in funny ways that you would not think to, think yourself. So I knew that was Spirit, because I wouldn't come up with that. And of course, they weren't meaning asses as in like assholes or anything like that. They were meaning
individuals.
Yeah. So and this is what we've always seen, is we see ourselves on a stage speaking to bigger crowds. So that's just what we're guided to do. So again, not to make this all long-winded, but unfortunately we do not offer individual coaching services. We're so sorry. Hi. We're right off of a walking trail and biking trail. But we do these videos. So if you have questions, we're not able to answer them individually, but we will gladly put them on our list like we do every month and answer them in a video so that everybody can benefit. So on that note, we're going to get started, and I'm going to preface the first question is a question somebody asked me at Christmas time, and I told them I was so excited I was going to do one of my own little videos that I do by myself and answer this question, and I have not. And I'm so sorry, but I haven't just been exhausted with this stuff that's going on now. I have been exhausted since December. And I don't know if that's been like transmuting, because this COVID thing really started, what, in November in China?
It started yeah, in November in China, and it became mainstream knowledge and part of what everybody was talking about in North America, at least, starting in early mid-January.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's the reason or if it's been other things. I haven't actually even had enough energy to like fully meditate to get a proper answer as to why I've been so exhausted. But the fact is, I never did answer this person's question. I am so sorry. I would love to someday, because I was going to draw things out and like diagrams and just really cool. I had brilliant ideas. But we're going to answer it today as best we can, and then maybe sometime we'll answer it again. So, on that note.
Question number 1 from way back in December.
Yes.
If God, absolute source, is perfect and created our souls, why does he need to send the souls to Earth school to become better? Are souls not already the best because they've been sent by the best?
I like that. That's a cute way to put it, too. So this is how I understand kind of all of creation and why we're here as souls and all of that, from reading many books, Conversations with God, one of them, a lot of books about near-death experiences and afterlife, all of that sort of stuff. So how I understand it is God is an energy. God is not a person. God is simply like if you want to just imagine like a ball of energy. And God wanted to know itself. So what it did is it split itself into many pieces, which we call souls. And because then it could interact with itself. Because how could it know that it was love if it didn't have anything contrasting that? How could it know if it was warm if it didn't know what cold was? So what it did is it separated itself into many different energies, and then those energies could interact with each other to then experience itself. So that is why we have contrast of love and hate and fear and up and down and hot and cold. We need those, because how do you know what anything is if you don't know it relative to anything else? So that's a very basic short answer, and of course I was going to draw diagrams and I had all these ideas, but I just haven't had the energy to do it. Do you have anything to contribute to that? I'm sure you do.
Well, yes I do, and it is, I'm going to say it's on topic, but also just a different slant. If God, absolute source, is perfect, I'll stop there. There's a definition of perfection that we would tend to lean towards being something closer to what's called good. But at the same time, to only very slightly exaggerate, if spirit or God is infinite, then all things are possible. So then we end up with what I'll define as desirable traits of God and undesirable. And because of that, then we've got another angle of contrast. Souls have a portion of what we would call in 3D world free will. So some souls can roam wherever they want within the realm of spirit or God. So therefore, because there's some free will, they can drift towards what we would tend to call undesirable traits. So then we start to get the desirable versus the less desirable, and all those contrasts and interactions, and from that, then there is much learning to be done, because ultimately, if we're going to be as souls learning everything that God has created, then we all have to learn what we would call the good and the bad. So therefore, we need to sometimes go to school because we've maybe tipped one side too far or the other to learn everything objectively, or we maybe haven't had the exposure to the full realm, and therefore we get to come to a denser density like this to gain exposure to things that are a little bit less than what we'd call perfectly heavenly.
I'm
Just my perspective.
glad that you added all that, because that's a big piece, and that's actually something I've been wanting again to do my own video on, but I'm just too tired. But is this whole thing that we're going through right now, there's so much out there saying, you know, the light is winning and we have to fight the dark and all of that, and I'm not here to insult anybody or offend anybody. I'm just giving my own opinion, is that the dark is part of the light. Unless we learn to embrace the dark, we're not here to fight against anything. The dark is, it's all one. It's much like the yin yang, right? There's the two pieces and they go together. So when you understand that everything comes from source, the dark is part of source. And we need the dark because it's helping us find our light. We can't know what our light is unless we have something contrasting that, which is the dark. And we're coming into a place of evolution where more people are understanding and waking up to their light, so the dark isn't as much needed anymore, because we've had enough of the contrast that it can now dissolve and we can have more of the light, more of the love. But yeah, the source is all of that. So like Rob was saying, you can have something go more to the, I can't remember the word you used.
I use lots of words.
Okay.
Sorry.
I forget. But anyway, yes. Good. You have good points. Thank you.
So for my closing points on this, even if somebody is here now on Earth and not aware and not awakening at all, it's very hard for them not to be questioning what is all going on with everything from politics to spirit to why there's disease and bugs floating around the planet, etc. So even just the very thought of questioning is a form of growth.
Yes, for sure.
Because if you haven't grown at all, then you don't have the ability to see what's going on and even ask a question. So I feel that the Earth is going through a huge growth.
Totally. Huge awakening.
And for those people who are already somewhat awake, the opportunity for greater awakening is just massive right now, because there is so much expansion of opportunity of thought going on the Earth right now.
Yes. Now we can go back up to the top. I had to write this one at the bottom of the list.
Okay. I almost see this as two questions. Should I just read it as one? As per normal, I haven't read the questions, and I see a couple of paragraphs here being possibly one question. I'll just wing it.
Okay, that's what we do.
Is it possible that my TF manipulates me telepathically just to keep me close with him for his own benefits? And is he totally aware of it? Is he totally aware of it in the human 3D level? Is it possible to feel love in 5D but not be aware of it in 3D? Even with all the confirmations and evidence. I think we could stop that.
Sure.
And just
answer that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it possible to feel love in 5D but not be aware of it in 3D? My opinion, completely. We're surrounded by love in 5D, and yet we only spend, literally, most people spend thinking about love in their most purest form, probably only a few minutes a day. So to feel love not only for another soul or another person, but for everything around you, yeah, your 5D is dealing with love way more than your three-dimensional existence, which is trying to buy groceries and get to work and back and trying to remain sane in this world the way it is. So Yes, very definitely. I say yes.
Now, can we go back? She had a question before that, too. Is it possible that my TF manipulates me telepathically just to keep me close with him for his own benefit?
And is he totally aware of it in the human level? Again, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to slightly twist the question. Communication in 5D, let's say between twins, is, I'm going to say, almost constant. It's whether we are aware of it or want to be aware of it or block it in 3D that causes us to know whether or not it's actually happening or not. So it is possible that you're chatting away in 5D all the time, and one person is able to pick up on those feelings and is feeling like it's manipulation, and the other person doesn't even know they're part of the conversation. Pick me sometimes.
I think the key word, though, is manipulation. I don't think twin flames in 5D manipulate each other. It might feel that way because often, and I think it's in one of the next questions too, often people will say, you know, like my twin flame will tell me all these things telepathically, or I will speak to them telepathically, but then in 3D there's nothing there. Like, is that manipulation? I don't see that as manipulation. I see that as your one soul is communicating with itself in 5D, but in 3D the other person is rarely aware of it, especially if they're not, you know, aware even of twin flames yet. They're not aware of the dynamics and the connection that you have. They're certainly not trying to manipulate you, whether they're conscious of it or not. It's just the dynamic of 3D versus 5D and how that's playing out.
You pretty much jumped right down to the second part of that question.
Okay.
Should I read it?
Sure.
It was added that I have had a strong telepathic connection with my TF for many years. Usually our communication only happens at the 5D level, telepathic. Although I write him letters to confirm our telepathy is real, he only responds and reacts telepathically, not replying or confirming any of my letters. He even told me telepathically that he is aware of everything he says to me in 5D. I even begged him many times to close his email address so that I could not write to him anymore and have no contact with him in 3D, because this is our only earthly connection that he allowed. He never did it.
I can speak to that a lot because that was my experience with Rob. We had a huge amount of 5D communication before we were back together. And yet in 3D, and I've said this many times, our only conversations were about license plates. That's all he would really open up about. We were playing a stupid license plate game, which is still stupid, and we still play it. And for those that have followed us, what am I on? I'm looking for 952. Rob made it to 1,000 last year.
Last year I made it to 1,000. This year it's going to be Angie's turn.
Yep.
We're gonna drag her game kicking and screaming to 1,000, and then I don't know what we're gonna do.
I'm gonna go play it backwards. But anyway, that's tangent. So yes, it's quite often that they will say a whole pile of things in 5D. They'll communicate, they'll tell you lots of stuff, but in 3D, there's like zilch, nothing, hardly anything at all, if anything at all. And you're like, what on earth is going on? And again, it's because they're very rarely are they even aware that they're having conversations with you in 5D. Like, were you aware?
No, I can't honestly say I did.
So that's very common. So it's good practice for you to learn to trust yourself, trust that what you're getting is real, trust that he is being authentic as much as he can. He is at least opening up in 5D. He's just clearly not able to do that in 3D yet for his own reasons, much like Rob had his own reasons. For Rob, it was a lot about being in another relationship. Your twin, it might be something different. You know, everybody's got their own battles that they're working through that we might not understand, we might not know. But that's even something you can ask for in 5D is like, you know what, could we have more 3D communication? I actually did that with Rob at the very beginning of our telepathy. Just, I was testing it. I wasn't like trying to manipulate him or anything. I was like, if you can hear me, text me. And within 10 minutes, he texted me. And of course, his text wasn't, I can hear you, I heard what you said. It wasn't anything like that at all. It was just something, I think, to do with license plates again, or I don't know what it was. But the fact is, it's how 5D and 3D works is the soul is what you're communicating with in 5D. His human self might be very unaware of the connection with his soul and thus very unaware of his soul connection with you. But that doesn't mean he's not somehow getting the messages that you send through to him. Because he's always in contact with his soul, obviously. You know, we're a soul living in a human body. So we do have contact with our soul. We just might not be aware of it. But the soul can nudge you. You know, for example, with my thing with Rob, his soul nudged him. Hey, text her, text her. Did he know why he was texting me? No. He just felt this weird nudge. Oh, I should text Angie. Maybe he just got this thought pop in his head. Much like we get when we have guidance from spirit a lot of times. They'll say, hey, careful, turn this way, and we'll avoid an accident. Were we consciously aware that we were avoiding an accident? Not at all, but we had the guidance. Same thing.
Further down in the question, there was a comment that on a 3D level, that there was a request to shut down a 3D style of communication. This is something that I have lived with. I've had a person in my life who has done the sort of what I'd call the push-pull. Like, don't ever contact me again, but please leave everything open, which is kind of the opposite of please help me by shutting down our communication line. Neither one of those things tend to work very well because that is a form of not dealing with the emotions or the energies that are affecting you and that you're able to feel. In other words, 3D emotions or energies that are affecting you down on the 3D level. That is actually an opportunity for your own growth, and to ask someone to stop allowing you the opportunity to keep seeing that reflection in the mirror, to keep growing by shutting down communication for you is actually, in my opinion, reducing your own opportunity to learn how to improve, even though you might not think that you have the capability to do the improving that you need to do. So I'd like to discourage asking someone else to close down a communication line for you, as opposed to learning how to deal with things yourself.
Yeah.
It's very painful in some cases to do
Yes.
that. But ultimately, it's one of the challenges that's being thrown in the questioner's face. And I'd say no. I don't blame the other person for just leaving the line of communication open. Not necessarily their lesson to learn.
I was just going to add to your last piece. Yes. Remember, even if you don't have any 3D communication, if they honored your request and closed down the email so you had no 3D communication with them, it's not going to stop the 5D. Like, the fact is, and I know this is such a hard thing for some people to accept because sometimes we don't want to be connected to them, but you're connected to this person. You're always going to be connected. The communication in 5D is always going to be there, even if it's not there in 3D. So like Rob said, it is. It's your lesson to learn how to manage that, how to manage your energy, how to manage the connection. And that's part of the growth, right? That's part of coming into union. Remember, union is not necessarily union with another person, but it's union with your one soul back to itself. And by blocking any part of the connection, you're blocking the connection to you. So always go back to remembering how to stay connected with yourself. And by blocking connection with any part of them is blocking connection with you. So hopefully that's helpful.
Speaking of connections, we got the next question. Next question starts out, hope you, Rob and Angie, are both doing well. Thank you for your services to the TF community.
That's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome on that.
And we're doing well, just tired, as we
Yeah,
said at the beginning.
Just a little tired.
You're not too bad for energy.
No, I'm not.
Rob's been going out for a long run every day.
and exercising lots. I've tried to stay energetic, and I've been reasonably successful. I just need to be energetic more than 7 or 8 blocks away from the house all the time. I need to get out more.
And you should see, he has been cleaning the house top to bottom. And I mean, like, emptying out the whole fridge and cleaning that, emptying the freezer, vacuuming like a section of the house. It's so detailed that he's moving all the furniture. And I'm literally, I'm not kidding you, I sit on the couch when he does this. I don't help at all.
Yeah, I've even vacuumed up the walls right to the roof just to grab any dust that's been on the walls, or the odd, well, you know what happens, cobwebs up in a corner because the spider finds its way there. Yeah, I've been doing cleaning on spots of the house that haven't seen a vacuum in years.
Yep. And when I'm not working, because I still have like my regular job, I'm not working full time, but I still have that. I still have bookkeeping, and unfortunately April is my busiest month for bookkeeping. And sadly, I still have my darn secretary volunteer position. I just can't give that one away to anybody, it seems. And it's my busiest month for that too. So I got lots going on. So when I get an opportunity to sit on the couch, I'm not helping clean the house. I'm sorry.
I've got to the point now where I've got the house cleaning under control, and now I've got a few other projects that I'm going to get done, and then I'm going to be able to focus on what I really want to do for the summer, because these other things are done.
Yes.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Continuing on with the question, we got off on a tangent.
Yes, we did.
We know how to do that.
Somebody asked how we were, and I had to tell them.
Every time when I heal an emotional issue and balance my energy, within a few days my TF contacts me and shares that he is going through deep pain. This happened 4 to 5 times within the last 3 months. Now I'm facing fear that if I do any emotional clearing on my end, he will suffer. I can't see him in so much pain. We are in harmonious communication, but he is not aware of our TF connection. I have seen that he's more calm and grounded in some areas than me. That's part 1 of the question. Let's stop right there. Every time I heal my emotion or heal an emotional issue and balance my energy, within a few days my TF contacts me and shares that he's going through deep pain. Not aware of the TF connection. I think this person needs to learn a little bit about the TF connection.
I think that's so awesome. And I understand that you're like, okay, if this is a cause and effect, if I do a bunch of healing and then now he comes to me and he's in pain, I don't want to do my healing because then he's in pain. But when you see like how beautiful is that connection, I mean, that so many people need proof, or they need something tangible, like, is this real? Are we really connected? Is this like really this twin flame crap? Is this, a lot of people go through that. You have something really tangible. This is so awesome, because what it's showing is you guys are working together. You heal something, and then once you're in a balanced place again, and you've moved up, if you want to imagine it kind of like a ladder, you've now moved up a rung. Right? Because each time we heal, we release more dense energy and we're able to go higher and higher. That's what the ascension process is about. So you've moved up a rung. Now it's his turn, because you have released some of the dense energy. He is now able to go through it and release his. So you're kind of like helping pull him up, right? We're assisting each other all the time, whether we understand it or not. And this is beautiful because it's such a dynamic way of showing how you're working together. So if you can, trust that he's just as strong as you are. If you've just made it through a whole pile of healing and a whole pile of growth, know that, number one, he will too, because he's strong, he's able, even if he is in pain. But also know that your stepping up has helped him. You're kind of like bridging a pathway for him to go down. So you're assisting each other. I just think that's wonderful.
I've got a slightly different slant for an answer to this question, or a comment to this question. What I'm thinking of here is if the person is not aware of the connection, they may not be understanding or interpreting properly what is bothering them. So, just like in the medical field, they have determined that an itch is actually just a form of pain that isn't actually a pain, so it still ends up being irritating, but it doesn't hurt as if it's pain. If the person, if your TF was aware of the TF connection, it's very possible that what they're feeling after you've done healing is something that they're, because they don't know or have an idea what's going on, they're just interpreting it as pain. And maybe it is something else because they have no idea what to call it. So if they were more aware of the connection and maybe what triggers that connection and triggers the feeling of pain, they might actually, with that greater understanding, be able to interpret it differently, and possibly they won't feel it as pain anymore. And by the way, this is also a great way to encourage conversation with your TF, is to give them that knowledge that if they all of a sudden feel something, maybe they can be in touch with you to find out whether or not you were part of the triggering of it. This is a fantastic opportunity to open up a growth path
Totally.
together.
Yeah.
So I would be going down the road right now of encouraging you to maybe explain what you've discovered or noticed with him feeling this pain after you've done healing, and letting him know that it is a energetic connection. Start learning, or start the learning process going. I would think that the feeling of pain felt on his side would become something different, something more understood,
Maybe.
something less concerning, and therefore not interpreted quite as much as pain.
Was there more to that question?
There is. Part two of the question is he is married with a child. No, that's not the way to word that. He is married and has a child. His wife is a good person, but emotionally they have nothing left between them. Both know that, and also friends and family know that. What should I now do to maintain trust and patience? Along with spiritual growth, can I also wish for a physical reunion / living together? That sounds like a very, very broad question. There's so many different angles to that. But the thought that somebody else is married and has a child is very, very consistent in this whole process. It's almost like that should be taken out as a variable. The question here is what can be done to give them greater insight as to whether or not they want to stay where they're at, or move on, possibly into a relationship with their twin. And that is one of those, what we call the $64,000 questions. What should you do as the person looking at someone in a relationship that is obviously not all that functional? What are you supposed to do to help them possibly look elsewhere? First of all, I'd like to always go to the thought that encouraging them to leave, especially just leave and go to their twin, is not necessarily all that beneficial. That ends up getting interpreted as meddling. I think what needs to be done is, again, going back to the education, educate them as to what is out there and available for them. The twin flame or divine relationship, and let them come to their own conclusions. Education without manipulation or direction. let them come to their own conclusions as to what they want.
Definitely, yeah, they have to. And I mean, always understand too, and I think you probably do, the way the question's worded, it sounds like you really have a good grasp on this dynamic, is understanding that the person they're married to, whether they're a soulmate, karmic partner, it sounds more like a karmic partner, because if things aren't great in the relationship, soulmates, it's usually, things are pretty good. But whatever they are, they're in their life for a reason, right? They're helping them grow and heal in ways that are beneficial to your connection. And the way it was shown to me when my karmic partner and I were splitting up, Rob's karmic partner and him were splitting up, and Rob and I were coming together, is that we were all a team. I was shown in meditation, like the four of us were like huddling together on a football field. So they showed we were all on the same team. It's not like there was, a battle and no, I want him and I want her and you can't have him and she's mine. And there was none of that on a soul level. We were all working for the same common goal. So when you understand that the person that your twin is in a relationship with is on a soul level on the same team as you, right? You're all working for the same thing. And eventually when their relationship has served its purpose, when they've each gotten the growth they need from it, they will be able to move on, and then, union can happen unless there's somebody else your twin needs to be with first. Not wanting to say that to scare you, just that's life sometimes. But it's understanding that every relationship is serving a purpose, and when it's done its purpose, the relationship will dissolve, whether we meddle or not. In fact, the less, like Rob said, the less we meddle, the better. I also wanted to address, you had said, along with the spiritual growth, can I also wish for a physical reunion / living together? Absolutely.
That's called
Absolutely.
That's called manifestation.
And
You're allowed to pretty much manifest anything you want.
yeah, I mean, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen anyway. And I love how Abraham Hicks puts it. They always say if it's in your desire, then it's within your ability to create. So we don't have desires that we aren't allowed to have or can't manifest in this life. If it's a desire, if it's in us as like, God, I really want that, then it has potential to be. And of course, it's my opinion, and I've said this many times in videos, that if you and your twin are incarnated on Earth together, you know who the person is, they know who you are, whether they're aware they're your twin flame or not, but you've communicated, you've connected in 3D, then I think you have come with the intention of union. Does that mean it's always going to happen? Hey, there's no guarantees. I mean, there's some people's twin that is crossed over and died, we'll say, or if again we're talking Abraham Hicks, they call it croaking. I love that because they, just want to make light of death, because death is really so beautiful. It's not anything tragic that we humans think it is. And there's also nothing to say, not that I want to get off on a whole tangent about dying, but there is nothing to say that just because a twin dies, you can't have union. I know more than one person who is in union with their twin, even though they're on this side of the earth and their twin has crossed over to spirit. So back to what I was saying though, if you have a desire for living together and union, yes, put that energy out there, absolutely. Again, it doesn't mean you need to, put it out there in a manipulative way. You're just setting your intentions. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Backing up one notch before that portion of the question, there was, what should I do now to maintain trust and patience?
Oh, that's totally you to answer. You're the patience dude.
Trust and patience get stressed by something called expectations. That's one of my favorite words. And if you, for example, if you put out a manifestation, hi, I want XYZ, and then you sit back there and cross your arms and say, okay, I've put out my request. Where is it? It's supposed to be here. I'm told it can happen. I want it to happen. Where is it? Right there, that defensiveness almost torpedoes your manifestation, because now you're focusing on the on what you don't have as opposed to what you've asked for. So if you take the expectations out, put your manifestations out there as a positive positive expectation, positive request, and leave it as a positive request without the demanding or the high amount of expectation, then you don't sit back in a timely world, a world with time, saying, it's been 15 minutes or it's been 15 months, where's my result?
Yes.
It's the expectations that cause a person to lose their trust and lose their patience. So ask for what you want, but also still live the life that you have. And as gifts come into your life, you can incorporate them at that time.
Yes. And so love what Rob said. I'm going to only add one thing, is that when you, and this I think is a question later on, so we'll get further into this, but when you can trust, and this takes practice, but I'm still practicing, but when you can trust that the universe is always working for you. Why? Because when you go back to that same question, we are the universe. The universe is us. We all come from that same source energy. We are source in human form. We are source as, again, I'm not to use Abraham Hicks so much. You'd think I'd been listening to them a lot, and I actually haven't lately. But they say you are an extension of source, which is exactly it. We are. And when you understand that, you know that everything is always working for you, but it's working for you in perfect time. And our perfect time is not always divine time, right? So when you can trust and just surrender, I know we always love the surrender word, but surrender that it's going to happen when it's meant to happen, not when we want it to happen. That's part of the bigger picture, is understanding that there is a bigger picture at play. And if you got what you wanted right now, it might not be beneficial for you or your twin because you're not ready. And you might think, but I am ready. But then you might have another experience and go, oh no, now I'm more ready. So as we go through life, we learn more and more of allowing the universe to work with us.
Should I bounce to this question or should we do that one?
You know what? Let's do that one. We're going to do it one out of order, just because that one ties in so well.
It does.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
We've already gone through about 2/3 of what the next question is.
Totally.
How do I know if I'm holding on to hope or if I'm completely surrendered, but with faith?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry. I hand wrote this question. I'm
in.
Sure.
I'm in separation and I keep going through rounds of having to let go because of his karmic situation. Is there an ultimate surrender before union can happen?
Well done reading my bad handwriting.
Well, the handwriting was okay. It was the missing words that were tough. Insert word in blank here.
So, okay, how does it start again? How do I know if I'm holding on to hope or if I'm completely surrendered, but with faith? I think they're one and the same. If you're holding on to hope.
If you're holding on to hope, you're not surrendered in my world.
Oh, that's interesting.
Surrendered.
Explain that.
Surrendered means no expectations, not dealing with it anymore. You've put your energy to it and you have let go. So, if you're waking up every morning hoping something, that hasn't meant that you've let go of it. I mean, you're either hanging on or you're not hanging on.
Now, I want to hear in the comments, you guys, because I have a completely different perspective of that. That's very interesting. Okay.
So, now, you can hang on to hope, but not be dwelling on it with so much energy that it's actually interfering with the growth in the rest of your life. In other words, you can let it simmer in the background. That's a very hard balance to reach. And most people that are asking a question haven't got that balance, or else they wouldn't be asking the question. If you're thinking of something once or twice a week as opposed to once or twice an hour, you're probably, and the once or twice a week bit, you're probably being very healthy, especially if you're not getting any results. It's when you're thinking, have I surrendered? Chances are you haven't, or else you wouldn't, because you would know if you've surrendered, because you'd be able to not have that stress in your life of constantly thinking about it.
Okay, yes, I see where you're going. I'm looking at it from a different angle in that often when I'm manifesting something, I have hope. I'm always like, oh yay, is today the day? And if it's not, then I'm like, okay, it'll be another day. So I'm in surrender with hope at the same time. I need to read the question again.
That tends to depend upon how a person does their balancing.
I think hope, and I wanted to grab this quote before we left the house this morning, and I forgot. It's such a great quote. Gabby Bernstein says it a lot, and it's like some guru person that she studied. And it's something like hope is being sure of something. Oh no, I can't quite remember it. If I find it, I'll put it on YouTube and pin it to the top, because it's a great quote. I love it.
Sounds far more in depth than the hope definition that I live with in the business world.
Yeah. No, it's not the business world one.
Yeah, the business world one is hope is not an action plan.
It's being so sure that whatever you desire is going to happen that you can surrender it. So you have hope that it's going to happen, but it's not wishy-washy hope. It's a strong, faithful hope. Because it's more of an inner knowing and belief than just, oh, please, please, I hope this happens. I don't feel like I'm explaining that very well, I'm sorry, but I'll find the quote because it's a great quote. I like it.
Somebody will re-ask the question again for us and point us in a different direction, and we'll go, oh yeah. But this is what I also like about Angie and I answering questions is sometimes the same question, Angie and I can get completely different interpretations of the question out of it. And this is why it's so fun to not really read through the questions and plan what we're going to do before we go into the video, is because sometimes I got my answer and she's got her answer, and sometimes half the people out there who are watching our videos need my answer and the other half need her answer. Between the two of us, we got it covered.
There we go.
Our dynamic is just so good that way. It's appreciable every time.
See, it's the masculine versus the feminine perspective. Okay, so now...
Is there an ultimate surrender before union can happen?
I have an answer, but I want to hear yours.
Union tends to happen when you expect it the least. So do you have to do anything before union finds its way to you? No. Just go with whatever flow you have. If you happen to be at a time of surrender, then you can say that surrender was part of what was necessary for your union. Other times, people have been lying low and they come out with that one final last aha moment and it creates union. That wasn't surrender that created union. That was actually a final step that created the opportunity for union. So is an ultimate surrender required for union? Nope. You actually don't know what's required for union. What is required for union is agreement that union needs to happen. Usually one side of the relationship decides that before the other. And so it's when the other side, it's usually when the other side comes to their conclusion that union happens. So surrender would only be something that I would say would take a little bit of pressure off of the 5D side because you're not pushing it from the 3D side. It might be what's required, but in many cases, it isn't absolutely required.
Agree. And I'm going by our journey, our experience. I can remember, in fact, I remember sitting at my home office. I was doing bookkeeping. It was like at 8 o'clock at night because it was a busy time of year. And we were texting back and forth because we were on the verge of like coming into full union of living together. And we were both so frustrated that it wasn't happening because he wasn't seeing a way out of his relationship. Mine wasn't moving out, even though we were like not together anymore. We were still living in the same house. And I had read a quote, something about surrender. So I had sent it to Rob and I said, that's what we have to do. We have to surrender. So it wasn't like an ultimate surrender that we did, though, because I don't think there really is such a thing as an ultimate surrender. It's a constant surrender. We're always surrendering. There's always stuff that we're going to desire, even when you get to union. You know, if you're like me, I can remember when I was 8 and I said to my mom, if I had got a Cabbage Patch doll, I would never want anything ever again. Yeah, well,
that doesn't work that way, does it?
No, it doesn't. We're always growing, we're always expanding, so we're always desiring more. And so we're always learning to surrender. So there's never an ultimate surrender in everything or anything. It's just learning how to trust the universe and trust that what you desire will come to you in the right time and in the right way. I'm actually going to give a little example. We're a bit long on this because I think our other video was like 20 minutes.
Oh, it was even further than that.
Okay, but I'm going to give this example anyway. I have been collecting, I don't even know, party light. This old party light stuff. I don't even buy stuff like this, but it's all like iridescent-y, and I have like the whole set now. I've slowly just been buying it used, and I had a party light mirror. It was the last piece I wanted, and somebody was selling it for like $5. Brand new, this piece was $50. And I was gonna go buy it, and then it was gone. It was taken off the market. And I just found one, finally went to buy it. It took forever because the lady wasn't communicating with me. Finally got there, and I decided not to buy it because it was more beat up than I was willing to pay money for. So then I was very kind, and I just thanked her for her time and said, you know, like, no worries, but I'm not gonna take it because it's got some scratches on it, and there's somebody else selling it for the same price, brand new. And I walked away, and then she called me back, and she was like, you know what, just have it, just take it, have it for free. And I was like, what? Like, are you kidding me? What? I was even still going to pay her, and Spirit said, no, accept the gift. You were given a gift, accept it. So had it come to me any other time, it wouldn't have been the right time. It was the right time because of all the other dynamics that played out. I went back to my car with this mirror, and I sat there and I literally cried because it wasn't just a gift from this lady, it was a gift from Spirit. I've been asking a lot of Spirit right now because I'm so tired, and I wanted some support back, and this was Spirit's way of giving me support. So it was perfect divine timing that this came to me in the perfect, beautiful way. So that's just a little story of everything that we desire is out there for us, but if we allow it to come to us in the right time, in the right way, it'll come to us with extra gifts than we even knew were possible. So if we can just trust the universe, and hey, I know that's not easy. I just said to Rob the other day after this whole mirror experience, I said, after all these experiences I've had, why do I still fight the universe? Why don't I trust the universe? So it's a process. We're always learning it.
Now I have about a 5-minute spiel of my own,
dear God.
but I'm going to try to condense this down to 1 minute and 30 seconds. And I will probably have to do a larger explanation of it later, but I will get the gist of it across. This is almost like, how does the spiritual twin work versus the matrix twin? The spiritual twin starts out by looking at things from the 5D perspective, knowing what is possible. Then they have to ask for what they want, and then step down to a median line. The 3D twin is in the third dimension, so they learn by education. They learn something which allows them to step up, like stepping up a rung of a ladder, and by being higher, they can see further and learn more. So if the 5D, if the spiritual twin asks for something, they have to ask for it and let it go because they understand that it's very possible. The 3D person doesn't have to do any surrendering because they're just trying to get to a point where they can see further, to learn more, to gain enlightenment. They're not having to surrender, they're having to gain information. It's when the spiritual twin supplies information that allows the matrix twin to see further, to grow. That is usually where you end up with a greater balance, the less need for surrender, and the greatest result. It wasn't until Angie asked me about if I knew anything or wanted to learn anything about twin flames that I was able to step up further and grow towards where she was. And at the same time, she asked that question and then surrendered, let go of it right away, because she figured that she'd blown me right up.
Yeah.
It just happened to be the right combination of information at the right time that allowed us to all of a sudden have an opportunity for union. Now, there was still a road to follow to get there, but it opened that door. It actually created a doorway where there used to only be a wall.
That's very well explained.
So, yes, surrendering tends to need to happen more with the spiritual twin.
Yes, it does. I agree.
I don't surrender very much. I just keep on trying to get further out. Yeah.
It's funny. But that's so perfect of an analogy, because that's the balance, right? If you understand, the 3D twin is down here, and I'm not talking levels like one is better than the other. 3D is just, they're very grounded, they're very on the earth. The 5D one, we're up here in the mountains, right? We're on the clouds. And so, yeah, you need to have that coming together, that, what's the right word? That leveling out, so that you can merge together, right? You can't merge when one's there and one's there. Hopefully you're not getting too much of our wind that we're getting.
But, and the thing is, it's like the old saying, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Just because one person's in 5D doesn't mean they're in absolute bliss. Sometimes they probably wish that they could be way more grounded.
Yes.
And the ones that are grounded have got that grounding that the 5D wish that they could have, but they wish that they could grow. They wish that they could jump up and get into the clouds once in a while. So, you know, it's about being in different places, not necessarily superior versus inferior places. Because I have started to understand within myself that I enjoy having a balance of 3D, 4D, and 5D in my life. I've become better as they've been able to work with each other. If I was completely 5D, I would have the challenge of not being enough 3D. I've been completely 3D and had the challenges of not being enough 4 and 5D. So it's the balance between the dimensions that allows more harmony, I believe, anyway, from my experience.
Yep. I think maybe we'll leave that one till next time, but I feel like we haven't fully answered this. Have we answered it? Oh, I guess we have.
Yeah.
I'm in separation. I keep going through a round of having to let go because of his karmic situation. Yes.
Yeah, there's lots of that. If letting go is how you stay sane because somebody else is not in a position to be in a relationship with you, if letting go is the term that you need to practice, do that.
And it goes back to the previous question of understanding that, you know, we're explaining that the karmic partner has purpose in their relationship. So if that helps you on the rational mind, go, okay, he's with her because he needs to be for now. This is where he's getting his growth, his healing. So if you can talk your ego mind through that and explain to it that, you know what, I can calm down. It's not a forever thing. It's just because he's with her now, it doesn't mean he's with her forever. It's where he needs to be right now, though. That really helped me, because we can have all these deep logical or deep spiritual understandings, but there's the logical mind, the ego mind that's like, but what about this and what about that? And it's like, rah, 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 rah. And if you can constantly talk it through in rational terms to calm it down, I found